Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm Andy RC and today I'm going to be taking a look at the LISAMRC LS-X140. This is a sub 250 gram 3-inch freestyle copter, and the frame looks a little bit like an Armaton frame, doesn't it? It is a lightweight 3-inch copter though, so they've gone small on the motors, so it weighs just 99 grams like this with its props and battery strap, and then with a 4S 550 milliamp battery it weighs 173 grams, so again it is well under that magic 250 gram number that we keep hearing off the regulators. This one is an interesting one because it could have taken advantage of the current trend of the Runcam Split Mini or the Cadex Turtle, but they haven't done that. Instead, they've just gone with a CCD camera, and I thought this would be a great candidate for the Foxeer mix that I've been sent. However, let's take a closer look at the specifications before we go any further on that. So the motors are a LISAM branded 1206 and the kV is pretty low as well. So they are a 4500 kV, but that is because we are swinging a bigger prop. So these are the Emax 3-inch props, and you get a spare set of those in the package, and they are the clear kind and these are the smoked kind. You do have to fit them. They give you the screws in the package, but this is everything that you get in the package. The ESCs are a 28 amp 4-in-1 BL Heli S ESC, and then above that we've got an F4 flight controller with a built-in switching VTX up to 200 milliwatt. So we've got a little micro UFL connector there, and it's all built in, so it's got smart audio as well. And we've got this little linear antenna. Now, out of the box, the linear antenna did not come out this way. I think it came out of the back here. And once again, there's sort of no suggestion where to mount the battery, but if I can top mount the battery, then I will choose that because I like the flight characteristics of that, and I'm fed up of landing on batteries and breaking them. Now, they don't give you any sort of silicon mat for the top or the bottom, which for the price I think is a shame. And these screws underneath here, they aren't recessed, so I went for the top. And I had to reroute the antenna out of the front, otherwise my battery would block it. So this is the battery that I'm using. It's a GMB 550 milliamp 4S. It will take up to a 850 milliamp battery, I think, but I went for this size because I think the power to weight of this thing is just going to be incredible. This is the bind and fly version, so we've got an XM Plus which just sits under here. It does not have the RSSI version of the firmware flash to it. That's something nice they could have done, but they didn't. However, it did come with these cable ties and also the XM Plus antennas there. It's quite easy to access the bind button, but it is just loose inside. We have got a buzzer on the back and an LED board which you can program. It's got a fairly old version of Betaflight, but I think this model's been around for a while actually, and it missed my radar. The camera is a CCD camera according to the website, and I've had a quick look and it does appear to be a CCD camera, and it has got Betaflight, as I say, but it pretty much needed a full setup. So if you are interested in something like this, then you're going to need to be accustomed to Betaflight, like all Betaflight models. I sound like a broken record when I say that, but I think that is the case these days with Betaflight. If you are expecting to just bind your transmitter to a copter like this these days with Betaflight and it to work without having to change a single setting, then I think you are going to run into some issues. So yeah, this is a really lightweight model, as I say, 173 grams with this battery. By the way, if you're wondering why I've got all the rubber bands on there, I mentioned this in a previous video, but I've started doing this because it can hold the balance plug in place, but also because this copter doesn't have a silicone mat, it stops it from slipping. So the battery strap isn't one of those that folds back. You have to press it down that way, so it's kind of opposite to the ones that fold backwards, because you have to sort of get this part as close to the other side as possible. But it does fit my battery quite nicely, and the antenna does get nicely out of the way. We can adjust the camera angle at the side using a 1.5mm hex driver, and the reason that it is so light, I think, is because we have the integrated VTX, which sounds great. However, if you do want to install something like the Foxeer Mix or the Cadex Turtle or the Runcam Split Mini, there could be a problem because the VTX is built in. It means that there is no output for a device like this unless I can tap into it somehow. But anyways, I'm gonna fly it like this, and then I think I'm definitely gonna use this as a candidate for the Foxeer Mix, whether I have to switch out the flight controller or not. Okay, let's do a line of sight with this guy. Wow, just about 2% up on the throttle and it's airborne. This thing is so light for a 3-inch copter that is Freestyle in its current form with its 4S 550 milliamp battery. It weighs 173 grams. And I do really want to speed test it. However, it's a really windy day, so I don't think that would be fair. And also it's a lightweight 3-inch, but that is just ridiculous power to weight. Yeah, I would estimate maybe 80 mph, top end of 80 mph with this guy and this battery. It is just absolutely bonkers like this. Okay, let's flick it into acro. The only problem is that the wind is gusting up to about 15 mph, and I don't think it's going to do it justice when flying FPV. I mean, it's getting knocked around now while I'm flying it line of sight. But wow, this is some crazy power, and potentially a great candidate for one of these HD systems, but they've gone the other way with that. I guess it can be so light because it's got that integrated VTX, which just means crazy power. Please come back down. It just goes to a dot in a couple of seconds, and orientation is very difficult. Now, these are not the stock PIDs, because the stock PIDs were just stock Betaflight PIDs, and a couple of minutes of those would just burn up your motors. So I'll finalize the PIDs because I really like this guy, and I'll give them to you when we do the FPV. But so far, a line of sight in this crazy wind that we've got, it's behaving. It's not too loud either. Then again, the sound of the wind is definitely playing a part of that. But 170 something grams on a 3-inch that's got this much power. I think despite all of the negativity about there regarding copters, I think we as a community will find a way. And I think it's this kind of thing that is the way. You know, I wouldn't half bet that this is quicker than a 6-inch Freestyle model. Now that would be the day, wouldn't it? Exciting times, and it's flying well, but I can feel some rain coming down, which isn't going to be great for the FPV feed. I'm just going to put it into angle mode to see if we've got any drift. Usually shows whether there's any noise coming through to the gyro, and I've gotten too close to myself there, and I've bound it in telemetry mode, so that's why that's happened. So if I just stay away from it, it'll rearm. Yeah, I should have bound it with the telemetry off, but yes, don't be too close to yourself. Anyways, let's bring this guy in for a landing before it tricks it down. So let's take a look at some DVR footage, and just as I suspected, it is a 4x3 CCD cam, and the quality is pretty good. And despite there not being a capacitor on the battery lead, we are not getting any noise through to this onboard VTX, which is a good thing, and it's performing really well. Now, this integrated flight controller and VTX I did find online, and it's called the AR Tower Mini ARF4-S VTX, and there's a schematic on there, but I couldn't see a pin where I could tap into the video for something like the mix that I have got. So it's not the video in, it's the video out part. So if some of you guys are aware of this board and know about the pins and where I could connect it, then I would be really grateful if you could put that in the comments, because otherwise I'm going to have to replace the flight controller and add a different VTX. And of course it's a pain as well. Always remember that if the VTX gets damaged, then the flight controller is going to need to be replaced as well. But it is the reason why this thing is so zippy. I mean, just look at that incredible speed. I would definitely guesstimate 80 miles per hour there, which is just crazy for this weight of copter. Now, as you can see, it's flying really nicely. I'll overlay my PIDs, but you have to remember that this is with a 550 milliamp 4S battery, and at these weights it only takes just a slight change in weight to have to completely change the PID. So remember the setup that I'm using, but check this out. It is flying really nice. Now, it is being affected by the wind. I'm definitely seeing some buffeting, and that is something that we can't get away with, but it is a crazy windy day. In fact, it was borderline me thinking to myself, should I be even flying anything? It was that windy. So it did really well in that respect, but I don't think it's quite doing it justice with the smooth flying. But as you can see, it can do all of the maneuvers and doesn't get tricked out. It's got bags of power. Now, if you do want to add something like a mix, there is no spare UARTs. That's not a problem for the mix or the turtle, because we can't add the controls at the moment with Betaflight, but that may change in the future. But if you wanted to add a run cam split, then you couldn't add the controls because no spare UARTs. Anyways, I've been completely ragging this, and we've got a 3-minute flight time, which is impressive. There's no current meter on this guy, I should mention, but I'll link it in the below if you wish to get one. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.